Hey guys, welcome back to this week's video. I want to talk about something today that's I've wanted to talk about in the past, and I just forgot about it. Busy. And I'm really not even prepared to talk about it now, but I'm in the mood of recording a video, so here I am. So I'm going to look down at this article that I recently read. Now, this is a Forbes article that came out September 29th, so a couple months ago, and it's called "The Next Generation of CMOs Will Come from Today's Social Media Managers." And it's an interview. It's actually a really good article. It's an interview with the author or the journalist. His name is Gary Drenick. He's a contributor to Forbes, and the CMO of Sprout Social, Jamie Gilpin. Now, I'm a huge fan of Sprout Social, and we use them for clients. I think they probably have one of the greatest, maybe not greatest, but one of a very good platform for small to medium-sized business in not just publishing social content, but also measurement and all that. But the article talks about how and they reference some research in there, which I thought was great. But the article talks about how, because, social media is so important to consumers and it's top of mind, it's the way that, brands can communicate directly with consumers, that as social media managers who are dealing with this day in and day out, they are going to be the ones who are running the business and running marketing, because they understand the customer voice. They understand how important it is to listen and respond and engage with customers in real time. And I have a tendency of agreeing with that. I think there are some, additional points I'd like to just quickly consider, because the role of the social media manager, it actually used to be a community manager, right? Back in the day when the likes of Radian 6 was around and Collective Intellect, you had community managers who were responsible for publishing content on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and also responding to inquiries, responding to comments, responding to tweets, and being kind of the voice and the face of the company in social media. And I remember there was a time when there were, these different industry pundits would say that, would get mad because, companies would hire an intern to manage their social channels. And they would go on this rant and go just way too dramatic and emotional about it. And that kind of drifted away, and then they were complaining about other things. But point being is that back then it was actually that easy. Right? You would post an article, you would post, unfortunately, a press release, and you would just wait and respond when needed. And I think now it's completely changed, right? So back then it was a community, right? Social media was a community. There were, in fact, there were not even paid ads on Facebook. You couldn't promote posts on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. It was simply a place to have discussions and engage with people. And it worked really well. Now, as these companies social networks began to monetize, they slowly started, offering advertising solutions to business, and they started, organic reach began to decline. Meaning, for every 100 fans, followers, or likes, every time you post, you might only reach 10, or 5 or 4. So the organic reach is declined tremendously over the years, and it continues to decline, and it certainly changes based on the industry and the type of content. So then all of a sudden you have to know paid media. So you have to understand cost per click, CPM, ads, etc., headlines. And so the role of the community manager became a little bit more advanced, right? The community manager could not just be an intern. It had to be somebody who understood the business. It had to be somebody who understood paid media. And now it has to be somebody who also understands creative, right? Because it's not a community platform anymore. Facebook, LinkedIn, even Snapchat, TikTok, and these others, these are media platforms. And so, and they're platforms that consumers spend a lot of time in. And so a community manager has to understand, not only what type of creative will, cause someone to stop scrolling. I call it a scroll stopper, but also how to, build an audience in these platforms. What are the characteristics that this audience that we need to build so that we reach the right people? So now it's not just understanding how to use the platform, but it's also paid media. It's also, creative and understanding the elements, and A/B testing is a great example of that. But to throw another kind of layer out there, it's also analytics. So analytics is important for a couple of reasons. It's important to measure the effectiveness of your programs, but also it's important to use analytics to inform what you're doing, right? Whether it's through media intelligence, or it's through audience analytics or influencer analytics. These are more advanced, right? So folks coming right out of college, unless you're coming out of MIT and you're a data scientist, you probably wouldn't, you'd be fine. Maybe not as creative as we'd want you to be, but you kind of get my point, right? So what I'm saying is that the role of the community manager has evolved. It became a social media manager. Now there's multiple people, multiple job functions that are required to be effective and smart at publishing content in social. Then you have to understand integration, right? So, and that requires years of experience, right? Understanding how earned media can drive traffic to a website, or how earned media can cause negative conversation or crisis on Twitter or Facebook. Understand how, owned media, how to drive traffic to, your blogs or your communities through smart publishing of content. So all those things require many years of experience and a lot of trial and error. And so I would say yes, yesterday's social media managers who have evolved and have become creative and have become and understand analytics and creative and data-driven storytelling, my favorite buzzword, then yes, they are going to be the next generation CMO. Now, there is going to be several that don't become CMOs, and here's the reason why. CMOs aren't just responsible for graphic design, and I'm totally, I'm not being serious here, but they're not responsible for just outbound marketing or inbound marketing, right? They're not responsible of your logo and your website and the UI and what you post, your tagline or, different ads, right? That's part of it. That's actually a very small piece of what they do. Successful CMOs need to understand the business, right? They need to understand revenue and P&L, and they need to understand the supply chain. And if you're a B2B company, well, any company, there's a supply chain. So all of those elements that make up kind of a, more of a, what someone might think of as being more operational or, supply chain or finance, an effective CMO has to understand how all of these things work, because all of these things affect marketing, right? Or could negatively affect marketing, or help provide an opportunity to define white space in a market. And so yes, the article was great, and I think the data points were there, and the CMO of Sprout Social, in fact, I just sent her a connection request because I thought she had some really good things to say. And so the last thing I'll say, and this is more directed towards my students at San Jose State and college students who I've interacted with over the past when speaking at different colleges and universities, if CMO is where you want to be and where you want to go, I would highly suggest, taking classes more in business, strategic business, global business, analytics, creative and media buying and all that. I mean, that can come with experience. I mean, either you are a creative person or you're not, and you probably want to hire a creative director or have an agency that does all that. But my point is, again, to be a CMO, you have to be very strategic. And, you're not going to be a CMO in your 20s, right? And if you are, that's great. Most of us could not be CMOs in our 20s. And so part of that learning over the first, decade of your career is, understanding the business and stock price, and how, does marketing or advertising affect stock price, or, does a billboard ad, outside of a certain city, when you take it down, do sales suffer, right? It's things like that, again, you don't learn in college, and you don't learn managing a Facebook page. So again, hope this was helpful. I do think that me being a social media manager at one point in my career, very early on, I always wanted to, I'm not sure if I ever want to be a CMO, but I do, where I am today is where I want to be. And so I hope this was a good message for you. I hope it made sense. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or criticism even, shoot me a note. Let's tweet about it. Let's talk about it. I love debating. I love being challenged, because I don't know everything, right? I only know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. So again, thanks for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.